So what is infinity? Infinity goes on forever. It never ends. The best way to understand infinity, you try to grasp at it with your mind, and what your mind usually creates is a three-dimensional mental image of infinity, which is basically something going out in every direction forever. So imagine that if you can, and when you imagine that, you don't necessarily have to comprehend it fully. That's not really possible, but just imagine it. Imagine the image of it, the concept of something that goes forever, whether it's outer space or air or whatever you want. Just stretching out in all three dimensions forever, for infinity, because it is infinity. So now imagine, rather than that, something two-dimensional, like a string or a line, which also stretches across, nothingness or somethingness, space, whatever you want. Just a line that stretches out forever. It does not start anywhere, or maybe it does start somewhere. Maybe this time imagine that it doesn't start anywhere. Imagine that in both directions it goes forever. There is no end or beginning. It's infinite. On the sides it's a cylinder and therefore has structure to it, unlike the first thing, which is infinite in every direction. It's only the all throughout it that's measurable. It's going from one part to the next. And the first one, the second one, it's the sides. So, imagine that two-dimensionally it is infinite. It stretches out on a line forever in both directions. Now, what is more infinite than the other one? Is it the first one, which goes out in every direction forever, or is it the line, which has no start or end, but is still just a string or a line, and therefore it is less in the structure that it has? You could measure it, and this one goes up more, this one goes down more than the string, so obviously the first one would have more, right? But they both go for infinity, they both go forever. So they're both infinite. So which would be more? The string or the air, or whatever you'd like for it to be? Now imagine another string or line. This one does have a beginning, but it does not have an end. It starts in one specific point, which it stretches out from, and it just keeps going forever. Now which one is more infinity? Well, now it's obvious. The other two are more infinity than the third one, right? Because the third one has an origin point or an ending point, depending on which way you look at it. But no, because they all take up an infinite amount of space, right? Because they all go forever. So, which one's more? You'd think you'd rank it from 1 to 3, 1 being the biggest, 3 being the smallest level of infinity. But, is it so? Is it not so? Are they all equal? Are they different levels of infinity, as some people would call them. If you're able to understand that, congratulations. Just thought I'd finally put this out here. I've been trying to get people to understand this since I was like 9. No one gets it. They're all, trying to understand, but they just land on things that I'm not talking about. Now, after that, give that some time to sink in, pause the video, rewind, rewatch this. And when you're back at this point, after that's sunken in for a while and you've grasped it fully, now imagine that there is a finite line, completely ordinary finite line. Just start, stop. It's just a line, nothing special about it. String, line, whatever you'd like. Now take it and shrink it infinitely. Just take it and shrink it down forever, infinitely. Not as far as it goes, farther than that. Farther than it goes. Shrink it down infinitely. I mean infinite. As infinitely can shrink. Shrink it down infinitely. So now it is a finite string that has been shrunken down to an infinitely small size. So, zoom in on that. What do you see? You see what you saw originally. It still has the same structure, the same length per inches relative to the width of it. Still a string, still the same dimensions relative to itself. Relative to everything else, it's infinitely small. But relative to itself, it's the same. It still has the same structure that it's maintained. Even though it's infinitely small, it hasn't shrunken down into a single point or nothingness. It's still the same. And you can even keep shrinking it down forevermore. Which it is. It is past and beyond that even, because it's already infinitely small. So what does that mean? In my opinion, from what I understand with my mind, I would say that means that infinity has a structure. Do you know what that means? That means infinity is finite. Also, it means that finitivity is infinite. Finitivity is made up of infinities, an infinite number of infinities, and vice versa. Those infinities within and without it are made up of structure, of finitivity, of measurables, of ideas, of concepts, of numbers. And then within those are more ungraspable, pure, unfathomable infinities. Even the infinite line is made up of the infinite every direction, and vice versa. You just have to let it sink in, the concept of infinity.